My name is Samuel, and at the age of 14, I set out to hike the Pacific Crest Trail, alone. The Pacific Crest Trail covers 2,650 miles, crossing 3 states, 26 national forests, 7 national parks, 5 state parks, and 4 national monuments. The total elevation gain of the PCT is 489,000 feet, equivalent to summiting Everest 27 times. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. It all started when I was 10. My family took an overnight trip in Washington on the section of the PCT where I met many hikers who told me stories from their hike. Ever since then, I had wanted to hike the trail. In 2024, I finally convinced my parents to let me set out on this adventure. I started to train and prepare. I'm heading out on my first night alone. This is my kitchen as I'm getting prepared to hike the PCT. This is my gear prep area. Yesterday I slept outside of my house, and today during winter break. We're at the grizzly hut and I'm sleeping outside again. After 26 hours of driving, my dad delivered me to Campo, California, the southern terminus of the PCT, my starting point. Mexico, now to Canada. Woohoo! I threw on my pack and I was off. I was extremely excited, but also afraid of what was ahead. I was actually going to do this. I couldn't believe it, but I was also really afraid as it was really starting to come to life. What if I didn't make it? Would all this training, preparation, and money I saved be worth nothing? What would everybody think of me at home? What would I think of myself? Calories were important, especially because I was still growing. I tried to eat as many calories as I could so I would not lose weight. Every time I stopped in town, I would eat as much as I could. After 2 weeks of long days in the Southern California desert, my group and I made it to the San Jacinto Mountains, 150 miles into our hike. The first 2 days were hard, just climbing up and up and up to 8,000 feet. I was sweating during the days, but shivering during the nights. On the second night, we found ourselves at nightfall on this ridge with a few flat spots to camp. Many other hikers had also chosen this place. As I was setting up, the wind kicked in. Gusts reached up to 60 miles an hour. Okay, just finished a long day. We're up in the mountains. Let's go into the tent. Okay. I'm really scared this wind is gonna blow over the tent, so hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully I'm safe. Earlier today when I was setting up my tent, my mattress, air mattress, blew away and I barely caught it before it flew off the mountain. Yeah, I was really lucky. Anyway, I'm eating some of this. It's gotten cold now. But it's my tent set up. It's a little bit disorganized because it's really cold. But yeah. During that night, my tent stakes slipped out of the ground 4 times. Every time I had to get up out of my tent and crawl against the brutal cold wind and hammer them back in with a rock. The next day was almost all on snow. We put on our micro spikes and took out our ice axes to navigate the snow. I was not used to the altitude. The day stretched on endlessly. That evening, I ended with the most beautiful sunset I've ever witnessed. I knew I needed to get stronger for this year. Luckily, I had 500 more miles before I would arrive. As I moved ahead, I had the chance to join many other great hikers for sections, but unfortunately I had to leave them after a week or two. I trudged on, but I was loving it. After another 500 desert miles, I arrived at Kennedy Meadows, the threshold of the Sierra. I had absolutely no idea how hard the next few weeks would be. The Sierra are by far the hardest part of the Pacific Crest Trail because of all the elevation and weather, but also the most beautiful. I was heading into them very early in the season, so it was going to be especially tough because there were still multiple feet of snow on the passes. "50 miles into the Sierra, my dad joined me to climb Mount Whitney. It was really nice to have his company. We got up at 12:30 a.m. so the snow would be firm for our ascent, and we headed off into the chill night with my group that I was with during the moment. It was really cold, but our adrenaline was pumping. This was going to be my first real need for an ice axe microspikes in the Sierra. The ground quickly disappeared, leaving us with only snow. It was very icy. We started to climb into the thin air. Soon we found ourselves 1,000 feet up in complete darkness. We traversed snowfields that with one wrong step, you would find yourself flying off a cliff to your death. I was completely terrified. I'd never done anything like this before. We were literally walking on the edge of a cliff. In some places, I wanted to turn back, but was too scared to climb back over the snowfield that we had just crossed. Breathing was almost impossible at that altitude. After hours of sketchy climbing, we made it up to the top for sunrise. We were so high that we could see the shadow of the mountain stretched into the atmosphere. The Sierra only got harder from there. The next day was Forester Pass, the highest pass in the Sierra. We woke up in the dark at 3 a.m., hoping for firm snow. My headlamp had died, so I had to pack up in total darkness. Instead of firm snow, we found a vertical sheet of ice. Halfway up, one of the men in my group broke down in tears. I vowed never to do another pass again. I called my parents that night in tears. The next day, I broke that vow. Every day we smashed rocks against our frozen shoes to loosen them just enough to be able to fit our feet into them. Then we climbed an entire pass and headed all the way back down, just to do it again the next day and the next. Each day took us further into the wilderness. If anything happened to you there is no way of getting help. Multiple times I asked myself why I was hiking this. Why not quit and leave all the pain, hardship, and danger behind? But I remembered why I was doing this. How I'd been a lifetime goal of mine, and what I would think of myself in 50 years. I pushed on. It was satisfying looking at my progress on the map, seeing my path through the sketchy big snowy mountains, up to 12,000 feet, down to 7,000 feet. I would go from the top of the world to the bottom every single day. After weeks of cold and pain, I finished the Sierra Nevada. They were by far the hardest part of my trip, but also my favorite. After 2.5 months of hiking, I decided to end my hike near the Oregon border. I realized that I would not be able to finish before school started, and I was not enjoying hiking as much anymore because I was alone. Fires had started everywhere. Many of my friends had to skip half the remaining hike due to closed trails and were constantly engulfed in smoke. It was time to go home. One day I will go back and finish what I started.